hi everyone. Hope everyone's had a good week. And as you know, we have been looking at live marking and feedback in a series of coffee and croissants over the last few weeks. And we've looked at different subject areas. We've looked at English and the way that they use T codes. We've looked at maths and science and the slightly different approach that they take. We've focused on MAS and stretch. And we're going to close off this series today by looking at practical subjects. So different areas of the curriculum that might have different requirements due to the practical nature of the subject. And so we have brought in an expert to talk you through this. We are going to be talking to the one and only Sophie Morel, our LP for music, and also the overseer of everything BTEC in the school. So who better to take you through practical feedback, the best practice for feedback that isn't in books.
Hello everyone. Today we're going to be having a look at feedback for subjects that isn't in books. We've done a lot of talking about some of the great things that have been happening and systems that we've developed to give pupils really great feedback in their books. But not everything that we do, not everything that pupils learn happens on paper. So how can we make sure that the feedback we're giving to them is as of higher quality, as the same high quality when it is not on the paper? So we're going to be looking at some strategies and some examples to give you some ideas. So firstly, we know already what feedback is for. Feedback is not about advice or praise, but it's specifically there to help people move to their next stage and improve their work. So we need to make sure that the feedback we give is specific, it's accurate, it's clear, it compares what a learner is doing right now to what they were doing wrong before, and it can encourage and support further effort, and it will give specific, clear guidance on how to improve. And this is seen in our criteria that we have for high quality feedback in our learning visits form. Is it timely, specific, and differentiated? Do they act on regular feedback in the correct color pen? And students practice extended writing or equivalent. So obviously in our context, in practical subjects, the correct color pen isn't going to be the thing that we're necessarily focusing on. And extending writing, we're really looking at the equivalent. So we need to take into account in practical subjects where the work that is happening is not on paper, one of Dylan Williams's major principles, which is that feedback should be more work for the recipient than the donor. Whatever feedback we're giving them is we're giving work to the pupils for them to improve their work. This shouldn't be a box ticking exercise for us to do in order to say that we've given feedback. So we need to make sure that what we're doing is really meaningful, which is why we need to tailor the way we give feedback to the type of work that the pupil is doing. It needs to mirror the medium in which the pupil is working. It still needs to be timely, specific, and differentiated. We need to make sure that they act on that feedback and that they are taking that time to practice that task independently. But we need to make sure that we're not doing things just for the sake of doing them, that it is still specific, accurate, and clear, and it will give really specific guidance on how to improve. So I'm going to show you some examples of some of the different ways that we give feedback in practical subjects here at Cumberland School, and making sure that the feedback that we're giving and the way in which we're giving feedback matches the medium of the work the pupil is doing. So first up, we have an example from drama, which is about giving verbal feedback. So this is Davina, who's very kindly let me film her. Pause there. Give them a round of applause, please. You. Again, like this group, showing really great perspectives there, and I quite liked it again from the perspective of the young child, the daughter saying, but I want to grow up and be a doctor, I want to be, and the response to that in comparison to the response to the son saying that he wanted to be an engineer. Another key thing like this group that I really want you to improve on are those vocal skills, okay? Making sure, Amir in particular, using your projection, yes?
Projecting your voice, articulating what you are saying. Because your understanding is there, you're demonstrating it through your characters, but if you aren't projecting your voice and really thinking about speaking clearly, we don't hear everything that you are doing, okay? Right, based on those two groups and the feedback that I've given, I'm going to give you 2 extra minutes, okay?
So the point about this is this feedback timely, specific and differentiated? It absolutely is. As soon as the pupil has demonstrated that work and done their performance, Davina has given that feedback straight away. Do they then act on it? Yes. She's then giving them extra time to take on board those comments and immediately incorporate that feedback into their work. And they're obviously practicing their extended task, they're doing the practical activity. So because in drama, the activity is verbal, it's physical, it's getting up and doing things, the way that they give feedback in drama mirrors that process and gives them an opportunity to immediately act on that feedback in their work. Next example I have for you here is from art. In art, they use target codes similar to how they do it in English. You can see the target codes from the slide I've put here for you for reference. And they make sure that the target codes have context, and the pupils will then act directly on those targets in their work. Let's take a look at Andrew in action.
Carl, let's have a look here, Carl. Right, my first question to you is this. I gave you that target last week. What is it? T4.
To add the secondary colour.
Yeah, it is, but that target could have changed from last lesson. You need to be writing them down. I know you did it there, but you need to write them down. Okay, you need to be working on today. What do you need to be working on today, do you think?
Probably add each colour in sections. So I just added them all sort of, I didn't add them in order here.
Okay, so what target's that?
T5.
Okay, I'd agree with you. Well, you've already got that target, so you're doing that already, aren't you? So you can tick that off. Let's look at, make sure that we're completing extension 2. We've got to do the background and the car shadow. Yes?
Yes.
Now, there's your shadow. All right. I think it needs to be a little bit more horizontal like that. Okay? Rub these two out. Get your green pen and write that down, please.
So Andrew is giving the pupil a target code, which they are then writing in green in their book. And the work evolves as the targets are given. And when you look in the book, you can see the progress of the pupil because the targets are there. You can see what the pupil has needed to work on. And it means that as soon as they start that independent task, they know exactly what they need to do to their work to improve it from the previous lesson. But the work is done in their sketchbooks and the improvements are made on the work itself. Sorry. Lastly, you have an example from music. This is me. What we do in music is we use tablets. We have Amazon tablets and we work directly with DPR. So a lot of our feedback is verbal. We want to find a way to record that and demonstrate that and link it to DPR so the pupils can listen back to that feedback if they need. So here is me.
Great. Well done, boys. I think that idea is really good. I really like the way that you're building this chord, this diminished chord. It really creates suspense. However, I'm just going to record this. Okay. So, Amanda.
Yes, miss.
I can see what you're doing and that you're being quite gentle with your part, but how is that going to develop? What is this part of the drum trying to represent?
A heartbeat.
A heartbeat. So how could we change that to make it sound more like a heartbeat?
The way we could change it to make it sound like a heartbeat is
When we have a heartbeat, boys, see if you can help him. When you have a heartbeat, what kind of sound is it? Is it just one hit?
No,
It's two.
So what does it sound like? Show him on the drum. Is that what your heart sounds like? What does your heart sound like?
it's like this.
What?
It's like this.
That's well done. Okay, so I think it needs to be a bit more recognisably like a heartbeat. And then, how could you then develop that for KO5 to show how things are changing? If she's running, what's going to happen to her heartbeat?
Oh, it's going to speed up.
It's going to speed up. So that for KO5, to show that contrast, that's what we're going to do. Boys, for yours.
Okay. So we are recording that feedback using the DPR voice feature. So next lesson, I can replay it to them at the beginning of it, or they can listen to it at home to remind them of what they need to do. This works really well when we're doing individual practice on instruments or working on the computers with Key Stage 4. It means that we're able to link our feedback directly to DPR, and it saves us time. It means that I'm giving my verbal feedback, but it is recorded for them to review later. So all of these examples, there are many others, but the point is that the medium in which that we're delivering the feedback matches the activity that the pupil is doing. When the pupil is doing an activity on paper, then our feedback is on that paper. When a pupil is doing an activity physically in person, then our feedback is delivered in the same way. We make sure that it's timely, specific, and differentiated. We make sure that they're acting on that feedback directly and that they're really engaging in those extended tasks. So key takeaways from this is that we need to make sure that that there is always time for the pupils to act on that learning. Same as you would do with red pen, green pen in books. The way that we're acting on it is different because the activity is different. We should use a similar medium to the task the pupils are doing, and it can take a variety of forms as long as it is always timely, it is specific, and it is differentiated. And you're making sure that you're giving that pupil clear targets on how to improve. This doesn't necessarily just have to apply to practical subjects. In your subject, if you're doing a debate in English or if you're doing speaking EMFL, there are ways of making sure that the feedback you give matches the activities that you do to make it really effective. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Some brilliant tips and advice there. A couple of things that I'm going to pick up on. I think that the voice function on DPR, especially in the practical setting, isn't used across the practical subjects as well as it could be potentially. I know that music use it very well, as Sophie has explained there. I know that MFL use it very, very well in order to get kids practicing for their speaking exams. So that is something that I think people should really experiment with. It's a great time saver, and it's something where you can set a child an independent task and get them to verbally explain their understanding and evidence their understanding to you. So a really good way of closing the gap. The other thing that I just point out, I guess, is that there's lots of practical ideas out there, but also obviously drama, for example, follows a linear curriculum where they sit a written exam at the end. So alongside that practical feedback that Davina is giving those children in class, there are also exam skills lessons whereby we would be following the red pen, green pen, the T codes, and the stuff that we've been talking about over the last 3 weeks. So there's definitely a combination of both. But I guess the important thing to highlight is that over a week ago now, your HOD received the success criteria grid that is really focused on your department's needs. And we're going to be looking at that in Twilight, actually. And so what we're going to be doing is comparing the work in our books to that success criteria that we've said is essential in order for us to help the kids progress as much as possible. So a combination of all these things, I think we're really coming together as a school and really pushing that live marking on. But listen, that was great. That is number 4 in our live marking and feedback coffee and croissants. So thank you everyone for coming and taking the time to be here, and have a great weekend. And I will speak to you soon. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.